Okay, my name is Ella Joe. My parents are Lacey and Annie Joe. Lacey comes up from Cortland, Virginia, in and around the Norfolk area, and meets my mom in Alexandria, Virginia. My mother is from Alexandria, Virginia. I was born and reared in Alexandria, but we quickly moved to the area of the foot of Georgetown, 25th and Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, where my father was employed at the Silchester Milk Dairy. It was right at 25th and M Street, very convenient. I attended elementary school in Georgetown, uh, right there at 27th Street. If anyone remembers Briggs Montgomery School, I attended kindergarten there. As a matter of fact, every once in a while I will contact a playmate or schoolmate who still resides there. She lives on 26th Street. She is the only one there. I then found out that the school was built like 2 years before I attended Briggs Montgomery because the Watergate proposal was being drafted, and we had to move from that school to 22nd and G Streets Northwest. Um, that school is now called I think it's a wall, was it Wall for Children School at 26th and G Street Northwest. From there, my father passed away in 1961. We moved from Georgetown, and by the way, I have to mention my father had purchased a half-acre land in Falls Church, Virginia, and it was just terrible that he's not here to enjoy the pleasures of what he started. He and my mother, uh, like I said, purchased land in Falls Church, Virginia, and the home was being built while we moved to a couple of places in D.C. We moved to Northeast, where I attended a school called Kramer. I was in Kramer on Kramer Street, but it was Matilda Minor in the Rosedale area of Bennings Road. We left there and moved to, while the home was being built, we moved to 11th and N Street to apartments there. The home was completed in 1963, so we're moving from D.C. out to back to Virginia. Uh, let's see, we call it the Big House, 3215 King Street, where Aunt Elizabeth Douglas resided, along with her siblings. Of course, they grew older and moved away. I can name some of her siblings. They are Reverend Albert Henry, who also lived in the area off of Braddock Road. There was Aunt Mary Hewitt, Mary Henry Hewitt, and of course my grandmother, my mother's mother, Louise Henry. She is Elizabeth Douglas's sister. My mother is Louise Henry. Louise Henry was married to Charlie Holland. I think most of you remember him as CB. And we owned off of Seminary Road 14 acres of land, and that property sold in '63. I wish I knew what I knew now, because I would have like at least held on to an acre of land there. But anyway, it was sold in 1963, and the place that's currently there is Seminary Heights. They're townhomes. If I knew, like I said, if I knew what I knew now, I would have held on for at least in half an acre of land. Now, I was reared in the D.C. area my elementary and childhood years, but every weekend we would travel out to see grandmother at 3215 King Street, and also we would also visit off of Quaker Lane. I believe it was called Johnson's Lane at the time. I had babysitters there, and my babysitters were Roger and Evelyn Taylor, and we called the other lady Mama Mary. Mama Mary's real name was, I believe, was Molly Nelson, and her brother Richard lived nearby. And all I can say is I still remember Mr. Johnny's roosters crowing at the crack of dawn, And I would sit straight up in the bed and say, "Oh, Mr. Johnny is here because the roosters know him and they're crowing because they are hungry." And getting back to my mom, I just didn't realize and understand that my mother was pregnant with my youngest sister. And each time she would come to drop off groceries for my sister and I, my sister is, by the way, my sister's name is Rosina, and I always, as a child, would call her Roro. But anyway, she still resides in the area too with her children. My brother, um, Rosina is my sister. My brother resides in Temple Hills, Maryland now, but he was raised, and my sister, Anna, I think you may know her as Peaches. They both attended Louds Crouch in Alexandria. Now, on the weekends, they would come and stay with us in D.C. and through the week, through the week would sometimes go out and visit. It was on Johnson's Lane. It was, like I said, Evelyn Rogers, Roger Taylor, and Evelyn Taylor. They were babysitters, and also, like I said, Molly Nelson. And I tell you, one thing I do remember was that train, the Amtrak train. You could hear that train, that whistle blowing. And believe it or not, I live 3 miles away, and I'm telling you, that whistle still wakes me up in the morning. I have it like clockwork. As a matter of fact, when I go to Orlando, I don't particularly like flying, but when I travel to Orlando, Florida, I know the clockwork. I know 3:15. You better be there for that train to take off for Orlando, Florida. I do remember that because I would go every other year. I would go to Orlando, Florida. Uh, the other thing I want to mention is about the Woods family. Now, my Wood without the S, uh, purchased land, 5 acres of land in the George Washington, Mount Vernon area, uh, Fort Belvoir, Woodlawn area. And I also discovered recently that the other set of Wood with an S, they came from Fauquier County. Uh, I'm still doing research there, and I hear other members telling me about Woods Place, and that's behind, uh, well, formerly T.C. Williams, but now Alexandria City School. I'm still doing research on there, so I won't talk about that. But I'm going to get back to Washington, D.C., how we were raised there. Like I said, we attended Minor Elementary, and then from elementary school there, I started attending Grimkey. We did move around a lot because my mom was waiting for the home to be completed. So once I moved to Falls Church, Virginia, I attended schools in Fairfax County. Fairfax County, it was Glasgow Intermediate, uh, and after that, I attended Jeff Stewart High School. Jeff Stewart High School, oh, now it's Justice High. Um, I graduated from high school, and my employment from there was, I know you remember, CMP, Chesapeake and Potomac Telephone Company. I started as an operator, telephone operator. From there, I started with the federal government. I started with Internal Revenue Service, criminal investigations. From there, I went with the Justice Department. And I'm going to tell you, with everything that's going on there, my mother reminded me, don't depend on the federal government. And she had all of her children uh, invest in a second career. That's where and I'm glad I had it when I was at the Justice Department. And the furloughs came because I used my real estate license then. So I am so happy that my mother pushed us for a second career. But anyway, I am so glad I was elsewhere when all the recent furloughs happened. I was elsewhere. So all I can say is that thank God for my mom pushing us for that second career because it helped me in the recent years, like in the 1990s, because I was able to I was sitting on or warming up my license. I pulled out my license and used it. But now I'm going to end with that. Thank heavens for a special person, genealogist, Chara McCargo Barr. She has helped me a lot. She's brought me to tears. I'm telling you, she's that one special person. Endurance and persistence and always eager to help you, and she's helped me a lot. And I'm still working with her. And I'm telling you, I have met more family members than ever in this year and last year than I've ever. I'm telling you, I didn't know the recent event at the Hilton. I'm telling you, I was sitting at the table and somebody mentioned the name Aggie, and I don't know who they're speaking of. And later I meet someone with the name of Wendy Burtz. Now, she is very close in my family lineage. I did not know her. I just spoke with her recently, and she started telling me about the Wood family. And I'm just appalled about, like I said, I'm not going to touch more on that because I need to get more information about the Wood family. But people, the surnames that I saw at certain events, I never knew. I would hear my grandmother, Louise Henry, and my aunt, Elizabeth Douglas, speaking of names as a childhood. In my childhood, I never knew. I would hear names like Viola Turrell or Terrell, but they pronounce it Turrell. And then I can look back and hear that my father, Lacey Joe, played cards with Reverend Preston. He wasn't a minister then. And the house is right up the street, and it's where the Russ resided too, the Russ family. And I remember that the names of Charlie Casey, and I remember the names of Ida Casey. I do remember meeting Beverly and Pamela Casey. And then I started visiting, because my grandmother had visited there, the Sykes family. Then Sheila and I are about the same age. So my sister and I would go there and we would play the old record player where you pick up the stylus and put it on the record, the old little record player we would play. And then the other person was next door to Elizabeth Douglas was Miss Maddie Martin. Then there was a lady there, a girl there, it was in the latter years. The lady there was Beverly Seegers, and bless her heart. When I visited two cemeteries, well, my family cemeteries are Fort Ward and Fort Belvoir. The other cemetery, Snowden, and I think there was another one there, I visited here last year. I saw the names like John Locke. I was attending the family reunions, and I didn't know all the people there. All the people come. You don't get to know everybody, but you sit around and try to get acquainted with some of them. Sometimes you just miss some of them. But there was a northern clan and there was a southern clan of Hollands. It's Holland Road down there, and come to find out, I just didn't know my people were from Gum Springs and Woodlawn and all these people. And someone suggested, I suggest you join the the Black Genealogy Society in Gum Springs. So I will join and find out and research other family members, because I tell you, I'm just overwhelmed and appalled that I have met so many people. And then that recent event, getting back to that recent event I attended at the Theological Seminary, I'm telling you, it was the name Strange on there. Strange. And I'm thinking, oh, I remember there. It was a 1939 sit-in at the library here where he was a civil rights activist. And I never knew I was related to the Strange people, and also William and was it Samuel Tucker? I think they say in history back in the 1600s, the first black African American here was William Tucker. And I believe those Tuckers are all related with Samuel Tucker, the civil rights activist that was here in the area, along with his siblings. I'm telling you, I'm just learning a wealth of some of the things I knew and some of the things I didn't. I just had to confirm some things. So I'm going to end with thanking the staff. Again, thanking the genealogists. You know, I've just learned a lot, and I'm still learning. And again, much appreciation uh, to you all, and I hope to meet the rest of my family. And all I can see are the surnames on that uh, family chart that I saw here recently. Names like I said, it was strange. I was like overwhelmed when I found out who the strange person was. I was just shocked, and I knew that it was something about strange that I knew from years before, but I had to like revamp on my history. Well, it was on the, I don't know how, but he was on the Henry tree recently at an event that I attended at the theological seminary, and it's like that's an odd name, Strange, and I'm thinking it was Clarence Strange. He was, you know, part of the civil rights movement, the sit-in here at the library, along with was it Samuel? I think it was Samuel Tucker. Yeah, and I just didn't know that the William Tucker was the first African in the British colonies, Jamestown. And the Tucker Cemetery happens to be right behind, like I said, my father comes from that particular area, but right behind a relative of mine on Cornelius Avenue in Hampton. That's where the Tucker Cemetery is. And recent years, they've gone there to try to clean it up, restore some places, and to use, what is it, GPR, ground penetrating radar, to find certain, you know, remnants of bodies and so forth. But anyway, they're still working on it, and I hope to. And as a matter of fact, I have my father's sister, Annie, was married to an Alfred Tucker, and I'm wondering, he was in the military, and I found out in latter years the two-bedroom house they resided in, that he built that house. He came out from the military, like in World War II, and built that house for his wife, my aunt. Unbelievable, you know, things that I've learned, you know, over the years. And the other, I didn't mention my family off of Quaker Lane. I think it was Johnson's Lane, like I mentioned, the Taylors. And then if you continue on, it was Wilmer Henry, who was married to, I think her real name was Wilhelmina, but we called her Aunt Willie. They resided on Johnson's Lane, and also it was the Taylors they babysitted me during that time, and then, like I said, it was Miss Molly Nelson who lived toward the end. She lived up there where Mr. Johnny's roosters were. I don't want to talk about his roosters anymore. But anyway, I was almost at the end, and I started up all over again because I'm just so overwhelmed with all the things that I've learned, and I'm just still learning. But again, thank you, and I'm going to end it here before I keep going on and on and on.